One of the little things I love in The Lord of the Rings happens in the very first chapter, a long-expected party. It takes place just as Bilbo is about to leave Bag End for good. It's after his birthday party speech and his disappearance in front of his 144 special guests, thanks to his putting on of the ring. He makes his way from the party itself to Bag End, where, after wrestling with himself and Gandalf over leaving the ring behind, he finally gives it up, and at last he's ready to go. A spasm of anger passed swiftly over the hobbit's face again. Suddenly it gave way to a look of relief and a laugh. "Well, that's that," he said. "Now I'm off." They went out into the hall. Bilbo chose his favorite stick from the stand. Then he whistled. 3 dwarves came out of different rooms where they had been busy. "Is everything ready?" asked Bilbo. "Everything packed and labeled?" "Everything," they answered. "Well, let's start then." He stepped out of the front door. It was a fine night, and the black sky was dotted with stars. He looked up, sniffing the air. What fun! What fun to be off again, off on the road with dwarves. This is what I have really been longing for years. Goodbye. It's a wonderful moment, hearkening back to that moment 60 years ago when he ran out of Bag End with no pocket handkerchiefs to begin his quest with Thorin and company, as chronicled in The Hobbit. This moment, at the beginning of The Lord of the Rings, is especially poignant because Bilbo has been able to cut himself loose from the ring and really leave it behind, a feat almost impossible for anyone to do. But the moment does raise a question, admittedly one asked possibly only by me in the last 70 or so years since the Fellowship of the Ring was published. Who are those 3 dwarves? Now, dwarves had been to Bag End before, specifically 60 years prior, Thorin and company at your service. They have also been there since, if Sandyman the Miller, talking in the ivy bush to the gaffer before the birthday party, is to be believed. "And look at the outlandish folk that visit him," he says. "Dwarves coming at night, and that old wandering conjurer, Gandalf and all." Hard to say what time frame he is referring to, but probably he means in more recent days. But going back in time, we learn in The Hobbit that the dwarf Balin, at least, came to visit Bilbo with Gandalf, one autumn evening some years after the death of Smaug and Bilbo's return to the Shire. The Tale of Years in the appendices tells us that it was in 2949, which would be 7 years after Bilbo's return. Have more come since? Undoubtedly. We are told the following. The ancient east-west road ran through the Shire to its end at the Grey Havens, and dwarves had always used it on their way to their mines in the Blue Mountains. They were the hobbits' chief source of news from distant parts, if they wanted any. As a rule, dwarves said little, and hobbits asked no more. Presumably any dwarf who knew Bilbo, or knew of him, might stop, or he might stop them. No reason not to, after all, since at the end of The Hobbit, Bilbo tells the dwarves, "If ever you are passing my way, don't wait to knock. Tea is at 4, but any of you are welcome at any time." So, he's been ready for them, and surely many a dwarf took him up on it in those 60 years. Also, odds are very good that he would ask plenty of them, and they would undoubtedly be only too happy to speak to him, for reasons I'll get to in a moment. As for right now, though, post-party exit by Bilbo, and these 3 particular dwarves he whistles for, we have an inkling of who they might be, at least in a general sense. The birthday party is coming. Days passed, the text reads, and the day drew nearer. An odd-looking wagon, laden with odd-looking packages, rolled into Hobbiton one evening, and toiled up the hill to Bag End. The startled hobbits peered out of lamplit doors to gape at it. It was driven by outlandish folk, singing strange songs, dwarves with long beards and deep hoods. A few of them remained at Bag End. A few presumably means the 3 who are there when Bilbo whistles. Gandalf arrives too, and Bilbo and the dwarves help unload his wagon. And then later we read, "A draft of cooks from every inn and eating house for miles around arrived to supplement the dwarves and other odd folk that were quartered at Bag End." It would be nice to think that these dwarves were at the birthday feast, beneath the pavilion where the 144 special guests attend the family dinner party. Mention is made of a few unrelated friends, such as Gandalf, but no mention is made of them being dwarves. And since the three dwarves are there behind the doors within Bag End when Bilbo whistles, I guess they got their supper up in the hobbit hole rather than under the party tree. But that's it. The first time we hear of the dwarves is when those few remain, and the next time we hear of them is when the three of them come when called and answer Bilbo that all is in readiness, and then they leave with him and are never heard from again. So again, who are they? We'll never know their names, but we can figure out some other facts about them. Surely the dwarves are from Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, since so many of the gifts given by Bilbo have come from that region. The text reads, "On this occasion, the presents were unusually good. The Hobbit children were so excited that for a while they almost forgot about eating. There were toys the like of which they had never seen before, all beautiful and some obviously magical. Many of them had indeed been ordered a year before, and had come all the way from the mountain and from Dale, and were of real dwarf make. Hundreds of musical crackers had been pulled. Most of them bore the mark Dale on them, which did not convey much to most of the hobbits, but they all agreed they were marvelous crackers." Dale, of course, is the city, or merry town, as Thorin calls it in The Hobbit, which is at the foot of the Lonely Mountain, and was destroyed by Smaug in 2770, and then rebuilt by Bard the Bowman in 2944, 3 years after he slew the dragon. The mountain, therefore, has to be the Lonely Mountain, Erebor. So, these three dwarves surely came from there. They are in possession of toys of real dwarf make, undoubtedly made in the Lonely Mountain, possibly even by them, and other paraphernalia from Dale. This was their task, to bring these items, which had been ordered a year before. A whole year? Well, sure. It is a long-expected party, isn't it? Presumably, Bilbo was in contact with some passing dwarves heading along the east-west road and gave them his orders to take back with them that year ago. That kind of time would be necessary, since it's well over 950 miles from Bag End to Erebor, and based on the trips to and from there that Bilbo makes in The Hobbit, we're talking several months of travel, and that's just one way. As for the dwarves themselves, they are surely older dwarves, as evidenced by their long beards. And their job is not simply as delivery men or delivery dwarves, but as assistants and escorts to Bilbo. Now, this begs the question, why would they do this? Why would they want to? Seems like a major undertaking. 6 months in one direction, 6 months back, with a bit of loading and unloading and packing to be done on either end. Given the nature of dwarves, it doesn't seem likely. The Silmarillion tells us dwarves are stone-hard and stubborn, and in The Hobbit we read, "Dwarves are not heroes, but a calculating folk with a great idea of the value of money. Some are tricky and treacherous and pretty bad lots. Some are not, but are decent enough people like Thorin and company, if you don't expect too much." Hardly the sort that would be willing to undertake such a job as they're asked to do here for Bilbo, wouldn't you say? They do, per the Silmarillion, suffer toil and hunger and hurt of body more heartily than all speaking peoples. So they at least are built for this kind of a task. But to actually do it? Well, frankly, as soon as this request came from Bilbo, I think it would have been something the dwarves of Erebor would have maybe killed to get a chance to do. And why? Because this isn't just any old request from some nobody hobbit 950 miles away. This is somebody. This is Bilbo Baggins. And who is he? Well, Glóin, or should I say it as Frodo does when he meets him in Rivendell, the Glóin, one of the 12 companions of the great Thorin Oakenshield. Glóin describes Bilbo to Frodo as follows: "Our friend Bilbo the Renowned." Bilbo the Renowned. And to make sure we all know what we're talking about, renowned means known or talked about by many people. famous. So basically, Bilbo is famous. Not exactly in the Shire, he's more notorious there, but in Erebor, he most certainly is famous. Bilbo is the person responsible, albeit indirectly, for nothing less than the death of Smaug and the restoration of the dwarf kingdom there. He was praised with great praise once the Battle of Five Armies is won. The new King Dain says, "I would reward you the most richly of all." And when he says farewell, the dwarves all bow low to him, and he's told if he is ever back this way again, the feast shall indeed be splendid. When the orders come in from Bag End for the toys of dwarf make, it's been 59 years since that moment. But surely the dwarves, who have gone so far as to put into song the arrival of Smaug and his destruction of their home, the mountains smoked beneath the moon, the dwarves, they heard the tramp of doom, they fled their hall to dying fall beneath his feet, beneath the moon. If they are going to sing about that, then they have got to have put into song the events of Tharn and Company's journey, Smaug's death, and the dwarves' ultimate victory in the Battle of Five Armies. Although we don't get such a song in any text, it seems highly unlikely that they wouldn't craft one, if not more. And Bilbo has to have been a featured player in them, since, remember, he's renowned. When the dwarves arrive at Bag End with their loaded wagon, we're told they are singing strange songs. Maybe these are songs about Bilbo? Because he is a hero to these people. These dwarves, again with long beards indicating that they are older, maybe they even fought in the Battle of Five Armies. They have surely heard a lot about Bilbo. Maybe Bilbo was taught in dwarf schools, maybe even worshipped a little bit, who knows? And now they are given the chance to go and help him? What dwarf wouldn't jump at the chance of doing that, even if it meant a trek of 950 miles and a year on the road, there and back again? That's why I say odds are very good that not only would Bilbo have engaged with any dwarves passing along the east-west road through the Shire, they would only be too happy to speak to him. As for our three dwarves here, think about where they end up. It's Bag End, yes, a fine hobbit hole if ever there was one, but it also has the distinction of being an historical site. This is, after all, where the entire quest of Erebor started. Just think what they must have thought when they arrived. My goodness, we are in the very spot, the very rooms where the great Tharn Oakenshield, and Balin, and Dwalin, and Fili, and Kili, and Owen, and Glowin, and Ori, and Dori, and Nori, and Bifur, and Bofur, and Bombur actually were. Where they met, and where they made plans to destroy the worm Smaug and retake the Lonely Mountain. Can you imagine how they must have felt? Worth all the work, I'm certain. And, of course, worth being whistled for, too, I'll bet. Now, they surely might experience a little of the don't meet your heroes kind of thing, as they proceeded to travel with this strange hobbit all the way back to Erebor, who surely would have given out a few times with bits of what he called poetry. On the other hand, dwarves do suffer toil and hunger and hurt of body more heartily than all speaking peoples, so perhaps it wasn't a burden to them at all. I'm sure they all had a fine time singing and telling tales, and they all would have been very happy indeed. So that is who I think those three dwarves are, and together they are one of the little things I love in The Lord of the Rings. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day.